Hi class, today we're talking about New Hollywood. This would be the late 60s through the 80s. A recession in Hollywood in the 50s and 60s. Studio monopolies were broken up. This was the famous court case, United States versus Paramount Pictures. It was an antitrust case that broke up studio control over movie production, distribution, and exhibition. And then TV cut into the profits of studios. There was a dwindling audience during the 50s and 60s. Hollywood film was often dry, toned down, and more or less safe. Think of things like Rebel, My Fair Lady. Despite some success by big budget film, Hollywood was losing money, and in many ways the creativity grew stagnant. So you had competition with TV and other outlets. So you had things like drive-in movie theaters, 3D, smell-o-vision, and so suddenly event movies, they were the most effective. These films were disaster films, and they're kind of a precursor to the superhero films. They had large budgets. They had big named actors, and special effects. So again, kind of like the superhero films. So this is the trailer for Airport, which was made for $45 million back in that time, was a lot, and nominated for 10 Oscars. And this trailer is kind of interesting because it tells you everything that's in the film. You know, you don't even really have to watch it after that point. We'll just watch a minute, you'll get the idea.
The year's most widely read novel becomes today's most exciting, most timely motion picture. Airport, big scale in every way, has the biggest all-star cast ever assembled for a single Universal motion picture. Burt Lancaster, Dean Martin, Gene Seberg, Jacqueline Bisset, George Kennedy, Helen Hayes, Van Heflin, Maureen Stapleton, Barry Nelson, Lloyd Nolan, Donna Winter.
The pilot from your Flight 45 made a shortcut across the field, and he didn't make it.
Well, what are you doing about it?
Well, when the snow melts in April, we'll get it out. What the hell do you think I'm doing about it?
Outselling any novel of recent years, translated into 14 languages, Arthur Haley's Airport was written for the screen and directed by Academy Award winner George Seaton. It has 7 stories tied into one. Dean Martin is pilot Vernon Demarest, loved by stewardess Jacqueline Bisset, and by his wife Barbara Hale.
You're sure?
Do you mean, am I sure I'm pregnant? Or am I sure you're the father?
Burt Lancaster is airport manager Mel Bakersfeld, at the crisis stage with his socialite wife, Donna Winter.
I think you get the idea. Another big one, Poseidon Adventure. This is remade a few years ago. This actually does still hold up. Basically, this cruise ship hits a wave and gets turned upside down, and the passengers have to make their way up from through the ship in order to survive. Still an entertaining film. Again, we'll just watch a little bit of the trailer.
Radar target in port bow.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Anything down east. 50 seconds to midnight. Fire left. Get up and aim.
From the captain? He's dead.
again, in some ways, the precursor to the superhero film, in that they were big budget films with big named actors that focused on these sort of huge events. Then you kind of had a renaissance in the 70s where the directors kind of took over. New Hollywood's appeal is a combination of appealing to the youth, counterculture such as Easy Rider, added realism. This is, too, you're going to see a big effect with the French New Wave in terms of the acting, with films like Bonnie and Clyde and Easy Rider. How did they do this? There's a breakdown of the production code. 1966 was the end of the content and subject limited production mode. European film style and content began to influence changes to like the French New Wave. Content became edgier, nudity and violence became acceptable. So this is the death scene from Bonnie and Clyde, and as you watch this, when the pigeons come out, when the shots are fired, you're going to see some jump cuts happening. So again, a direct example of the influence of the French New Wave. Bonnie and Clyde, famous American bandits who ended up being killed by the police. So watch when the shots are fired. Watch what the jump cuts that occur.
Hey, isn't that Malcolm there?
So you can see the influence of the French New Wave. And the 70s, really, that was the era where the directors had their greatest power. Who are some of these filmmakers? Big names were Francis Ford Coppola, Woody Allen, Robert Altman, Mike Nichols, Arthur Penn, Dustin Hoffman, Hal Ashby. Hal Ashby made a lot of the films that I thought were some of the best films I've ever seen, such as The Last Detail. Dennis Hopper, Warren Beatty, Peter Bogdanovich. So this is a clip from Apocalypse Now, which some critics say this is the best scene ever made. This is basically a take on Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, but instead of going into Africa, it's set in Vietnam, where a group of army men are sent in to rein in a rogue colonel who has sort of made himself a god amongst the local tribes, and they kind of go in to try to assassinate him. This is earlier on in the film when they have to land a boat, and they end up getting into a battle with a village. The logistics of this scene are so impressive because these aren't special effects. This is the real deal in terms of the explosions going off.
I can't get used to him. He's a heavy board. I know, it's a real drag. You prefer a heavy or a light board? Come here. Really? Yeah. I thought all the young guys like letterboards. Can't write the nose on those things.
Big Duke 6, this is Eagle Thrust 7. We've got it spotted.
Big Duke 16 Eagle Thrust. Put on heading 270. Assume attack formation.
That's a roger, Big Duke. Okay, we're going in.
We're coming low into the rising sun. And about a mile up, we'll put on the music. Music? Yeah, I use Gardner. It scares the hell out of the slopes. My boys love it. Hey, we're gonna play music. How come all you guys sit on your helmet? I'll get a hole blown off. Big Duke 6 Eagle Thrust. Put on sidewalk up. Sing it loud. And the Romeo Foxtrot. Shall we dance?
Again, those are all real explosions. Woody Allen was also a big filmmaker in the 70s. This is from a film called Annie Hall, which won the Oscar over Star Wars.
Two elderly women are at a Catskill Mountain resort, and one of them says, "Boy, the food at this place is really terrible." The other one says, "Yeah, I know, and such small portions." Well, that's essentially how I feel about life. Full of loneliness and misery and suffering and unhappiness, and it's all over much too quickly. The other important joke for me is one that's usually attributed to Groucho Marx, but I think it appears originally in Freud's Wit and its Relation to the Unconscious, and it goes like this, I'm paraphrasing. I would never want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member. That's the key joke of my adult life in terms of my relationships with women. You know, lately the strangest things have been going through my mind because I turned 40 and I guess I'm going through a life crisis or something. I don't know. And I'm not worried about aging. I'm not one of those characters, you know. Although I'm balding slightly on top. That's about the worst you can say about me. I think I'm going to get better as I get older. You know, I think I'm going to be the balding virile type, you know, as opposed to, say, the distinguished gray, for instance, you know. Unless I'm neither of those two. Unless I'm one of those guys with saliva dribbling out of his mouth who wanders into a cafeteria with a shopping bag screaming about socialism. Annie and I broke up, and I still can't get my mind around that. You know, I keep sifting the pieces of the relationship through my mind and examining my life and trying to figure out where did the screw up come, you know. And a year ago we were in love, you know, and it's funny, I'm not a morose type. I'm not a depressive character. You know, I was a reasonably happy kid, I guess. I was brought up in Brooklyn during World War II.
So that golden era kind of ended with Jaws. 1975 generally considered the first of the blockbuster era. Before Jaws, actually, not a lot of people went to the movies in the summer, and Jaws was kind of the first film that made summer movies sort of a big deal. Before its release, the studio spent millions hyping the film in advertisements. Instead of opening in select cities followed by a slow rollout, which was a common release, it opened wide on over 400 screens. Made 7 million opening weekend, and eventually made over 200, which by those the 70 standards would have been a huge number. So Jaws kind of ended that sort of really nice period of the 70s where the directors sort of had all the control, and this is kind of taking us towards the 80s and what 80s movies became. We'll just watch a little bit of the trailer for Jaws.
Alive today, who has survived millions of years.
Most of you probably have seen this.
Without change, without passion.
If you haven't, you
without
should.
Logic. It lives to kill. A mindless eating machine. It will attack and devour anything. It is as if God created the devil and gave him jaws. This is Universal's extraordinary motion picture version of Peter Benchley's best-selling novel, Jaws.
I just found out that a girl got killed here last week. And you knew it. You knew there was a shark out there. You knew it was dangerous, but you were swimming anyway.
So the director era more or less ended with that. The movie brats, who were they? They were a combination of influences, a generation of filmmakers who immersed themselves in both American and international cinema. They watched films on TV, they went to film schools, they studied world experimental and Hollywood cinema. They had encyclopedic knowledge of film. They were movie buffs. Who were they? Martin Scorsese, John Carpenter, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas. And this is the trailer for Raiders of the Lost Ark. And what's interesting about this is that the film critic Pauline Kael, when she saw this in her review, she said, basically this is like the fantasy of a 14-year-old boy. But she said there is a danger in this type of film, and that one day I could see that this is all there is for film, is films like this. And when you look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, just as you watch the trailer, think to yourself, this does kind of look like the first of the superhero movies. And so she was kind of right about that, about where cinema was headed. Again, that was Pauline Kael. So this is kind of a combination between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg.
For nearly
3,000 years, man has searched for the lost Ark of the Covenant.
The Bible speaks of the Ark leveling mountains and laying waste to entire regions. Not something to be taken lightly. No one knows its secrets.
Jones, do you realize what the Ark is? It's a transmitter. It's a radio for speaking to God.
An army which carries the Ark before it is invincible.
The Ark. It is there, Tanis. And it is something that man was not meant to disturb.
It is protected by forces beyond imagination. It is desired above all treasures on earth by those who are good, trust me, and those who are evil.
I'll tell you everything.
Yes, I know you will.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
There you go.
So that could be a trailer for a superhero film you saw today. Eventually, independent film. So from the 80s to 2000s, so there's kind of the backlash against the big studio films was kind of the independent film movement. As New Hollywood began to lose out to the formula blockbusters of the 80s, some of the most interesting films were being made without the support of studio money. So independent films generally receive little to no financing or support from Hollywood. These films are often financed by the filmmakers themselves or multiple sources. And they play at film festivals and then get purchased at film festivals and then screened. This is a film called Clerks. This is Kevin Smith's first film, made for the people say $27,000, and would go on to make him become a big director. But this is all just the plot of this film is just two buddies working in a convenience store with sort of going nowhere in life.
I thought this place supposed to be open at 11 o'clock. It's 11:20.
I've already called his house twice. I'm sure he'll be here soon.
It's not like it's a demanding job over there. I'd like to get paid to sit on my ass and watch TV. I walked in there the other day, that son of a bitch was sleeping.
I'm sure he wasn't sleeping.
Are you calling me a liar? Are you calling me a liar?
No, he's probably just resting his eyes.
What the hell is that, resting his eyes? What, like he's some air traffic controller?
Actually, that's his night job.
Well, his ass too, huh? Go ahead, keep cracking, Wise. That's why you're jockeying to register in some fucking local convenience store instead of working on a steady job. Look, I've got no time to bullshit around here. Wait for that son of a bitch. Make sure he gets that. The number is 812. My name's Winosky. And I wanted a movie tonight.
Well, if you'll just tell me the title of the movie, I'm sure he'll hold it for you.
Don't hurt yourself, buddy. I'll go to Big Choice Video instead.
Forgot your keys.
I ain't here yet.
You're kidding, it's almost 11:30.
I know, I've been here since 11.
Man, I hate it when I can't rent videos.
I would have went to Big Choice, but the tape I want is right there in that wall.
Really? Which one?
Dental school?
You came for that too? That's a movie I came for.
I have first dibs.
Says who?
Says me, I've been here for half an hour. I call that first dibs.
Ain't gonna happen, my friend. I'm getting that movie.
Like hell you are.
I'll bet you $20 you don't get to rent that tape.
$20?
$20.
Alright, asshole, you're on.
So that's Clerks, and then of course in 2008 we had Iron Man came out, and from then on it's pretty much just been superhero movies that have dominated the cinema. So that takes us through cinema history. Then, if you have any other questions, feel free to email me.